The wind howled through the Rocky Mountains, carrying with it the scent of pine, snow, and sorrow. A storm was crawling down the ridgeline when Elias Boone, known only as the Mountain Man, spotted movement along the frozen trail below his cabin. He raised his rifle, eyes narrowing through the blowing snow. At first, he thought it was a coyote dragging something behind it, but then the shape stumbled, collapsed, and didn't move again. Elias's gut twisted. Whoever it was wouldn't last long in this weather. He slung his rifle and trudged down the slope. Snow crunched under his boots, the wind biting his face like shards of ice. As he neared, he saw her, a woman, young yet aged by pain, clutching something wrapped in a torn blanket. When Elias knelt beside her, she looked up with eyes that didn't belong to the living. "Please," she whispered, voice brittle as glass. "Please bury my child, before the wolves come." Her lips trembled, her hands blue with cold. Elias's throat tightened. Beneath the blanket lay a small, still shape, too still. He'd buried his own share of the dead in these mountains, but never a child like this. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Let's get you both inside," he said, voice low, steady. She tried to shake her head. "It's too late for him. Please, just bury him proper." But Elias didn't argue. He lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing and carried her back up the ridge. The cabin door creaked open to the sound of the storm. Inside, the fire burned low, throwing orange light across rough wooden walls and hunting trophies. Antlers, pelts, shadows of a life lived in silence. Elias laid her on the cot and carefully unwrapped the bundle. The child, a boy no more than 5, looked peaceful, as if just sleeping. But the cold had stolen every trace of breath. The woman, Anna, she later told him, wept without sound, the kind of tears that come from a place beyond words. Elias covered the boy with a clean cloth, then poured hot broth into a tin cup. "Drink this," he said. She didn't look at him. "We were heading for Fort Bridger. My husband died last spring. I thought maybe someone there could help us start over." Elias stirred the fire. "Fort's 3 days' ride south. Too far in this weather." Anna's eyes flickered to the covered body. "He was sick. Fever took him 2 days ago. I couldn't leave him." Elias nodded slowly. He'd seen death come easy in the wild. Cold, hunger, fever, bullets. "Out here, mercy was just a word the wind forgot to carry. You can rest here," he said. "I'll see to your boy." The next morning, the storm had passed. Snow lay thick and clean across the land, untouched except for the footprints of a man and a shovel. Elias dug beneath a great pine overlooking the valley, a quiet place where the sunrise touched first. He worked without pause, his breath steaming in the cold, each strike of the shovel echoing through the still air. When he was done, he stood for a long moment. Head bowed, Anna came up behind him, wrapped in his old coat. She held a small wooden carving in her hands. A toy horse. "He made it for himself," she whispered. "Said one day he'd have a real one." Elias took it and placed it beside the boy. Then he covered the grave slowly, gently, like laying a child to sleep. When the last handful of dirt fell, Anna fell to her knees and broke. Elias didn't speak. He just placed a hand on her shoulder and let her cry until there was nothing left. That night, she sat by the fire staring into the flames. "Do you live here all alone?" she asked. "Been that way a long time," Elias said. "Men come up sometimes to trap or hunt, but they don't stay. Why not?" He gave a dry smile. "The mountains don't care much for company." Anna studied his face. There was pain there, old pain, buried deep. "What about your family?" she asked softly. Elias poked at the fire. "Had one. A wife. A daughter. Fever took 'em both same winter. Haven't been the same man since." Silence stretched between them, heavy and real. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be. You can't apologize for the world." Over the next few days, Anna grew stronger. She helped mend his cabin, gathered wood, even cooked, though her hand still shook when she touched the empty space where her child had lain. Elias watched her quietly. Something in her reminded him of himself, the will to survive after everything's been taken. One evening, as the sun burned orange across the peaks, she stood outside staring at the grave. "He was all I had," she murmured. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now." Elias came up beside her. "You live," he said simply. "That's what you do." She turned to him, eyes glistening. And you? Is that what you do out here, live? He hesitated. I survive. Living, that's harder. She gave a faint, sad smile. Maybe we can both try. But peace doesn't last long in the mountains. 2 days later, Elias spotted smoke rising from the valley. Not the clean smoke of a campfire, but dark, oily, spreading wide. Raiders, he cursed under his breath. Word had it a band of men were moving through the frontier, robbing settlers and burning what they couldn't take. He turned to Anna. You stay here. Lock the door. If I'm not back by sundown, take the horse and ride west. She grabbed his arm. You can't go alone. I've been alone a long time, he said, pulling free. Don't worry. I know these mountains better than they ever will. He loaded his rifle, strapped on his knife, and vanished into the trees. Through the dense forest, Elias moved like a shadow. The smoke led him to a clearing, and there they were, 3 men with rough faces and rifles, laughing as they tore through a trader's wagon. He recognized their Mark, the Black Hollow gang. He'd tangled with them years ago when they'd tried to run whiskey through his land. Now they were back. Elias watched them for a long moment, anger rising in his chest, not for himself, for Anna, for every soul these bastards had broken. When one of them turned toward the trees, Elias's rifle cracked once. The man dropped without a sound. The others dove for cover, cursing. By the time they fired back, Elias was gone, moving like the wind between trees. 2 more shots, 2 more bodies fell. When silence returned, Elias stepped out, breath heavy, eyes hard. He looked down at the bodies. Should have stayed out of these mountains, he muttered. When he returned to the cabin, Anna was waiting by the fire, worry etched on her face. Are they gone? She asked. For now, he said, setting down his rifle. But they'll be back. They always come back. She stared at him, voice trembling. Then what do we do? Elias looked toward the boy's grave outside the window. The moonlight touched the mound of snow gently, like a hand of peace. We fight, he said quietly, but not for revenge. For what's left worth saving. Snow had begun to melt along the lower ridges when the Black Hollow gang returned. Elias Boone knew it before he saw them. The mountains always told him first. The silence of the birds, the uneasy shift in the wind, the faint smell of smoke drifting from miles away. He was out chopping wood when Anna came running from the cabin, her face pale. Elias, she gasped. There's a fire in the valley again, a big one. He dropped the axe and grabbed his rifle. Get inside, he ordered. Don't come out unless I say. Anna shook her head. Please don't go down there again. You'll get yourself killed. He met her eyes, full of fear, full of something else too. I'll be fine. I won't let them bring hell to this mountain. Then he was gone, vanishing into the tree line like smoke. By the time Elias reached the valley, night had fallen and the horizon burned red. The Black Hollow gang had found his trap line and his warning. 3 men on horseback rode through the snow, dragging a stolen wagon full of furs, whiskey, and stolen goods. Their laughter carried in the cold. Elias crouched behind a boulder and waited. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, called out, Boone, I know you're up there. You think you can kill my men and hide? We'll burn your mountain down to ash. Elias chambered around slowly, his heartbeat steady. You should have stayed in the valley, he muttered under his breath. Then his rifle roared. The shot echoed through the cliffs like thunder. The scar-faced rider fell from his horse, his body hitting the snow with a dull thud. The others scattered for cover, shouting and firing wildly into the dark. Elias moved fast, using the snow to mask his steps. He fired again and another man down. The last one, panicking, ran for the trees, but Elias didn't shoot him. Not yet. He followed, silent and patient, until the man stumbled into a clearing and found himself face to face with the mountain man's cold, unblinking eyes. Tell your gang, Elias said quietly, pressing the rifle barrel under the man's chin. If they come near my mountain again, I'll bury every one of them where the snow never melts. The man nodded frantically, tears freezing on his cheeks. Elias stepped back, letting him run. Then he turned toward home. But something deep in his gut felt wrong. When he reached the cabin, the door was open. Anna, he called out. No answer. His heart pounded as he stepped inside. The fire had burned low. The table was overturned. A single trail of footprints led out the back door, smaller ones, light in the snow. Anna's, and beside them, Heavier prints. Boots. He followed them up the ridge, past the old pine where the boy was buried. The prince stopped near the cliff's edge where two men stood, one holding Anna, the other aiming a revolver at her head. Well, well, the gunman sneered. The famous mountain man himself. Elias froze. His rifle was down, too far to reach before they fired. Let her go, he said, voice low but steady. Don't think so. The man grinned. She's coming with us. Might fetch a good price down south. Anna struggled, but the man behind her tightened his grip. Elias's eyes hardened. You touch her, and I swear by the earth you'll never see another sunrise. The man laughed. You ain't in charge anymore, old man. You're just another relic of this mountain. Then, a sound. A faint click. Elias had slipped his knife from his belt, hidden behind his coat. When the gunman turned his head for just a second, Elias threw. The blade struck deep. The man fell, clutching his throat. The other released Anna and went for his gun. But Elias was faster. 2 quick steps, a swing, and the man went down hard into the snow for a moment. The only sound was the wind. Then Anna collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Elias knelt beside her. You all right? She nodded, trembling. I know. He helped her up. It's over now, but he knew it wasn't. The gang wouldn't stop until every one of them was dead or gone. They buried the 2 men at the edge of the cliff that morning. Anna stood silent as Elias marked the graves with stones. You shouldn't have to do this, she said quietly. I've done worse, he replied. But they won't stop, not until they pay for what they've done. She looked at him, not with fear, but something like faith. Then I'll help you. He shook his head. You've been through enough. Her voice didn't waver. I lost everything once already. I won't lose it again hiding behind a door. Elias studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right. But you do exactly as I say. They spent the next 2 days preparing the cabin. Elias set traps, reinforced the windows with logs, and laid out ammunition across the table. Anna helped load bullets and keep the fire burning. It was quiet, but not peaceful. The calm before a storm. On the 3rd night, the storm came. 6 riders emerged from the dark, torches burning in the snow. Elias saw them from the ridge. He lit a lantern, then blew it out, a silent signal. Anna took her place by the back window, rifle ready, breath trembling in the cold. Then the first shot rang out. Glass shattered, wood splintered. Elias fired back, hitting one rider square in the chest. The fight exploded into chaos, bullets slicing through the dark, torches flying, horses screaming. One of the men kicked in the door, shotgun blazing. Elias ducked behind the table and returned fire. 2 shots, 1 kill. Another burst through the back window where Anna stood. She screamed, swung the rifle like a club, and knocked him backward into the snow. Anna, down! Elias shouted, firing past her shoulder. The man dropped, his torch falling and setting fire to the doorway. Flames crawled across the walls. Smoke thickened the air, out the back. Elias yelled. They stumbled into the snow, choking on the smoke. Fire roaring behind them. 4 men still stood in the yard, loading their guns. Elias raised his rifle, then heard a whimper. Anna was beside him, clutching her side, blood staining her coat. He froze. Anna, she shook her head weakly. Keep fighting. He clenched his jaw, rage and sorrow burning in his chest. Then he rose, aimed, and fired until his rifle clicked empty. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. Dawn broke over a field of ashes. The cabin was gone, the snow blackened. Elias sat beside Anna near the grave of her child. Her head rested against his shoulder, her breathing shallow. You're gonna be all right, he whispered, voice breaking. You hear me? She smiled faintly. He's waiting for me now. My boy. Elias shook his head, tears blurring his sight. Don't say that, she touched his cheek. You gave me peace, Elias. You gave me a home. Then her hand fell away. Elias held her as the wind rose, carrying the ashes into the morning light. Weeks passed. The snow melted. Grass began to grow where the fire had burned. Elias built 2 markers beside the small grave under the pine, one for the child, one for Anna. He stood there a long time, hat in hand, eyes on the mountains that had taken everything and given something back, something like redemption. I buried them proper, he murmured, like you asked. Then he turned and walked down the trail, leaving behind the graves, the cabin, and the ghosts of his past. The mountain wind followed him, soft, cold, eternal, and somewhere far away, the sunrise broke over the ridges, touching the land with gold.